Sure. So I'm going to go to your 426 packet on page 31 for the admin department.
It's page 3 for those who got the packet from me.
What page is it if we're on last week's budget?
Last week's was not.
Didn't have that one? Oh.
Yeah, that's going way back.
You said which one, the 26th?
The 26th. And it's under administration. And what I just printed out for you with what Adam has. So it's under administration.
Okay. So in the administration budget in salaries and benefits. Are we good? Okay.
Yes.
What page are you on?
31.
31 in the packet.
Okay, moment.
Got it.
Okay, so we have one city manager, one executive assistant, one HR manager that's a vacancy, and hopefully that person will begin in early September. In finance, we have one finance director, one assistant finance director, and two accounting technicians. The assistant finance director is also a vacancy, and it's a vacancy from 21 that's actually an accounting technician.
Nikki,
We're asking to...
Nikki, you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So we're asking to upgrade the vacancy of the accounting technician to an assistant finance director, and we're hoping to find someone with some accounting experience. And that would go from a range 14 to a range 16. So the majority of the increases you see in salary and benefits between the F21 approved and the proposed is the addition of the HR manager. And then there's just some changes with wages and finance. In the vehicle insurance, that's doubled because we are picking up the legislative vehicle as well as the admin vehicle. In the auditing fees, we dropped that down a couple $1,000s as we've been able to see some savings from doing a remote audit. In other professional services is an increase of $30,000 for a salary study. In buildings and land rentals, you see a decrease of $3,000 because the city apartment rent is now being split between 3 departments, port, police, and admin. And then there's increases in the vehicle parts and supplies and maintenance to cover both of those vehicles. And there's an increase in building maintenance material and supply for carpet and paint. And those are pretty much the changes for the F22 budget in admin.
What's this $30,000 salary study for?
Is to do a study of our salaries to see where we are in competition for the local market, the hospital, Coeric, and to also look at where we are with local governments. That's why we're going to be having, when Cheryl gets back, she's going to be coordinating an effort that everybody gets their job description. They highlight what they are actually doing in the job description and what they are doing that is not reflected in the job. So we can do an apple-to-apple study so we can see where we stand and what is our competition out there to be able to hire people.
Good. And it costs us $30,000 to do that.
I know, it sounds like, holy cow.
That is a ballpark number. That could be less, it could be more. It depends on how much we get done, preliminary work we get done.
Is this being done by somebody else or is it
I'm
being done by you?
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it myself. I want to bring an outside person in who can go through and get all this information. So someone is not saying it's being, that the city manager has his thumb on or finger on the scales.
there is I guess, I don't know that salary study is synonymous, but I think they go together with classification study, which is what the union would use. And this activity will somehow, I'm thinking, generate potential regrading of positions within the current steps potentially. So somebody, because I guess it's on the equal pay for equal work principle. A police officer, one, might be equivalent to accounting tech 2 or something, just when they do all this scoring of stuff. So is that part of it too, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, we are bunched up. Actually, our lowest wage is below $15, which a lot of people feel is really the minimum wage. And I don't, this will be able to answer discussions that have been raised in union negotiations too.
I don't know where it was at, but this thing about the living or the minimum wage and how much corporations make and all that. They on Twitter was a deal about McDonald's was offering $18 an hour. You saw that? So somewhere you can go to work for McDonald's for $18 an hour.
The living wage.
Like fries with?
Right?
Okay.
Any other questions on admin?
Okay, moving right along, if you don't mind, information technology. When Dana left, she said that she felt that though it's showing a full-time wage, it's probably only going to be 25% of that. Right now, we're using the IT person up at the police department to support us, which is Wade Harrison. So we will pay a portion of his wage, and he'll still remain a police officer. The problem about bringing him all the way over simply into IT technology, it would impact his pension because he's in a police pension plan versus an administrative pension plan, which means he can retire after 25 years versus 30 years.
What job is he, how many hours is he working?
He's going to work, right now we're looking at about 10, maybe 15 hours. So, but he'll still maintain, he'll still be doing patrol and doing some
10 or
investigation.
15 hours over here?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
So he's primarily gonna be a police officer then?
right.
Gotcha.
Because you already have hired a company called GCSIT, which does the bulk of the work for us. And so he'll be more
He's like the guy on the ground that can actually poke buttons and touch things for them.
So there will be some savings. We just have not reflected it in this portion of the budget because we hadn't had a chance to talk to you yet to see if you were concerned about anything. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We're buying some more equipment. As you can see, GCSIT is budgeted here, plus other project work.
What's the 112,000 for?
Well, I believe, Nikki, that's their share that we pay GCSIT.
Yep, and the total contract is close to 128,000. 12% is charged to the port.
Oh, that's what that 12%.
So the 112 is IT's.
If there's no other questions, we're going to move next to the city clerk.
Sorry, that guy.
Don't make him happy.
I know, he smiled real big too, didn't he? Saw all your teeth, that one.
Okay, Brian. In this one, the big difference is that based on a recommendation of our auditors, one of the accounting technicians, which was the sales clerk representative, is now being fully accounted for in this budget.
Before it was in
It was split
finance.
between the clerk's office and the finance, and that was creating some management issues too.
Yeah, it was wholly in finance, and then it was split for a while, and now it's wholly in city clerk.
And, that was actually based on the recommendation of our auditors, because we asked, I said, should we put it over here or over here instead of having a split operation, which was creating other problems. Mike, do you have any highlights you want to talk about?
It's about the same as last year. Assessments, the CAMA software that's helping with assessments. Nothing too exciting in there.
And the input of all the records is essentially done, or?
The input, yes, the input of all the records is done. Well, the input of all the property cards is done. We're still working on getting all permits into there. So 2019 and 2020 permits have been scanned, but they haven't been pushed over to Mars yet. And we're still trying to figure out a efficient way of handling paper and somehow getting it to digital. We're still doing it the way that we've always done it with permits, but trying to find a more efficient way to.
I know it's not really budget related, but is it possible to have for a program to list like several years of tax assessment on our, like when you open
Yeah, if I had it on this computer, I could show you. But right now, it was started for 2020, and we put in 2019 for historical. So right now, you see the 2019, 2020, and 21 records.
well, that's
all-
on there already?
Yeah, right in the middle of a.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it yet. Look for it. Somebody just asked me that just the other day.
Are you talking about the program, or are you talking about something else?
And I'm talking about when you go to the city website and you want to search a property to see what its value is and what its tax assessment is.
It just shows the current.
This shows a current one on there.
But it was cool. It pops up with a map.
Yeah, the map.
So, I mean, it's, you can click on your house and it tells you, you can click on the
Yeah.
neighbor's house,
Tells you
whatever.
more. Yeah, there's a lot of
Scroll
information on
around.
that map. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But they were saying, like, if you go to Anchorage website, when you click on that property, it also shows, there's something you could click on that shows you several years of, maybe even 10 years, I don't know.
Okay.
That was just a request that somebody had, and I don't remember why. I think they got their assessment in the mail, and they were wondering if there's a way to see what their past assessments were.
Yeah, they can just come down and look at the property card.
Coming down here.
Okay.
This is at home at about 10 o'clock.
At home in a filing cabinet.
Okay. This is after a few beers, about 10 o'clock at night, and they texted me and said, can I see what
Nice. That's when you
I
think
said,
of
you can go down and see Brian tomorrow.
Right. But it's nice to see how your neighbors are doing. Values of property.
Yeah. Yeah, my neighbors are way undervalued. But, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of planning and engineering? This is where a portion of Dave's salary is as the building inspector. We're going to start monitoring that to see, because Dave's been doing a good job in getting himself educated. I hate using that word, but informed, I guess, is the best word of, you know, trends and to be be the building inspector. So we're going to start looking at that. Also, your engineering and architectural services are here in this budget.
What about Eileen Bechtel? Where does she fall?
She's in here too.
Okay.
She's in line 1870. Contractual planner. She will, I suspect this will be her last year, so I don't quite know where to find someone at this point.
And I guess along that line, the 2030 planning thing, that's at the survey now, and then
The survey should be open until the public house, which is next Tuesday. And, the open house.
Yep.
We know what you meant.
That's where you can get liquid refreshments. So that'll happen at Old St. Joe's. Okay, moving right along, animal control, which is typically handled under the police, but we didn't get to it. That night, we're still having that as a contractual service. One of the issues that we're looking at is stepping up about people getting their pets vaccinated, which, you know, for the rabies. We're working with the hospital and with Animal House on that. Animal and getting our pets registered. A number of people said they were uninformed. They did not know that they needed registration. You know, I'll accept them at their word. But we are having that. A problem that we're going to have to start looking at. There is canine distemper in a couple of the communities outside of Nome. And, you know, we're going to have to be on guard for that.
you know, it might just be a way of the way you put it, but the shots is what we want, and we have these clinics, and if we somehow say still have a license fee that's posted out there, but if you get your shots, the license fee is $0. Just market it a different way, because I mean, as far as you know, the fees that come in from a license, I guess some are 25, or it depends on they're neutered or not neutered. But just change the, you know, we're subsidizing the shot thing. You could boost that just a little bit to.
Well, I think they've been giving the rabies shots out for free.
Okay.
You know, there was talk about maybe giving out some leashes because we have too many, unleashed dogs running around. We've also had this past few months, as the snow melted, all of a sudden we were finding a lot of dog feces out all over the place. You know, I mean, we're not going out and ticketing people, but we're trying to get people to use bags, pick up their waste, because we would also get residents calling us complaining that people were using their yard for their dogs to go potty. So, you know, it usually, you know, it crops up, then goes back down, then it crops up and goes back down. These issues that we hear about. But we are pushing, I've requested Animal House. The the animal control folks through Norton Sound, and for our own person to, push, get dogs vaccinated and to make sure that they have their canine distemper shot preventative. That could change things dramatically if that happened here. We had an outbreak. Because I think I sent you something that I had to retract it because the state got out ahead of itself last year.
We used to, and I don't know if we still do, we had some bag stations, dog waste stations. I don't know if that was effective. If it was effective, maybe add a couple more.
Well, the one comment I heard was you're not supposed to walk your dogs in the park, but you had a waste
Right.
station
There
there.
There was one.
And there's one over here, right as you come into
Yeah.
this portion of Division Street. So, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we're not supposed to have dogs in the park, but we know dogs are in the parks.
What parks, like Old St. Joe's?
Yeah, there's no dog supposed to be in there, but there was a bag container and so that was kind of.
We had that posted at the youth softball field too, but there was always dogs in there. People were walking them.
I mean, there aren't a lot of spaces, especially with people. That was one of the discussions that we were having during the pandemic, that people wanted to take their dogs out. They couldn't walk on their lots because snow was all the way around their house. And where were they take the dogs?
My house.
They go to,
They go to their neighbor's
they
house.
go to that middle beach.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I can give you-
fertilizer out
I can give you some names and people that sit out there with those dogs. I'm just like, people always, all day long. That's where they-
That's a good open spot over
Don't
there.
take your kids over there.
Don't take your kids.
All right, unless there's any other questions, moving on to not a lot of change.
Where are you now?
Hang on, I gotta find it.
I lost you on that one.
Well, see, our problem is, I'm sorry, I'm working on a pack.
42.
32?
42
40.
of the.
It's on page
Last month.
14.
I got it. I'm following along.
Got one, you got one.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
St. Joe's, found it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm there.
There's no major changes there. We will have we're really trying to schedule a deep cleaning at least once, if not twice a year. We had done it last fall, and it still looked good, And we're open back up June 1st to birthday parties and everything else in there.
All city facilities open?
The library will not be until July 1st. We are hiring right now for the museum to be open because it's only the director there. So pretty much everything should be, other than probably the saunas, because they're still doing some work on them. All right, I'm going to skip Public Works, Adam, because that's your next page. And going to the mini. The mini convention center, the day shelter leaves at the end of this month. The new day shelter will be open up by the hospital. Now, we doing the same deep cleaning that we've done before. Now, the difference is that before the day shelter opened up in there, the carpet was shot. It had major stain spots that even deep cleaning could not get out of that. I asked Joe, and we just put a rough number in there, to look at replacing everything in there with carpet squares, because it's not carpet squares up there. So if we get stains, we can just pull the carpet square back out. So this is one of the projects. There will be a couple things I'm pretty much sure that the building maintenance is going to have to deal with, where some damage that was done by the day shelter, which they're required to reimburse us for.
As appliances broke and
Yeah, then I will settle up with them on that.
So, no, forget it.
Now, this past year has probably been the most lucrative year we've had in that building. This building, we still are usually costing us $50,000 to maintain ownership versus income. So there's usually a $50,000 loss.
You consider putting it up for sale?
2 years ago, we did. We considered it. Ultimately decided it was better in city hands. Plus, I don't think there was much interest in anybody buying it. But I wouldn't be opposed to exploring that again. Maybe in conjunction with the recycling center or something.
there you go.
Well, I guess it's in, what do I call it? Well, it's in the floodplain, yeah. So you tear it down and you can't rebuild. And I guess I'm assuming that's why the property taxes there are probably high, and that we have flood insurance included in regular fire insurance premiums. But I guess just having been on the phone again with the lobbyist and Joy and DEC talking about our port, new development and the like, I can envision, I guess, when we actually have the port going in there and the causeway moved and an actual travel way on this other side now, that's going to impact Middle Beach to some degree, and it's probably not going to be like a park type of thing necessarily, or certainly not as big, and that we're, I guess presently the mini also serves or we're using that as one of the primary facilities when we have cruise ships and the like that come through. We just don't have enough spaces in town to put the influx of these people, in Old St. Joe. And I guess I'm a proponent for keeping the mini in city hands.
Okay. Moving to, I'm jumping over Public Works landfill, going to the senior citizens building. Last year you had the big expense of replacing the refrigerators in there. And we're back down more towards where our normal contribution has been. There's some building maintenance contracts, and Dave can speak if you have any questions on regards to that. Dave keeps a watch over that building.
That building
The fire alarm needs to be replaced, but we're trying to see if we can get it maybe this year. But
We don't have a number, but it could be maybe as high, if not higher than 25,000. Depends on what they have to.
right. So
And if it's just the panel, it's going to be one thing. If they have to do a lot more.
I did appeal for a guy or a person to come up as soon as I give them the PO, they can be up here within a week, and they'll go do a walkthrough. They'll go back to the thing, then they'll give me a quote of what needs to be done and everything, and we'll go from there. But
We have some fire alarm inspectors coming up for the utility here real soon. So, if there's any interest in having them take a look, see, I don't know, who you're dealing with. But
actually, you need, are they inspectors, or are they people that actually put the systems in?
Okay, Yukon Fire is the one, I believe, that does the inspection.
Right, that's who did ours.
And then it's Alaska Fire and Safety that will be here to look at the fire alarm systems, because the panel in the new power plant is now past its useful life, and we can't get the parts to, we don't have to change any of the sensors or anything.
Yeah, I don't think we would, but you never know what they say or whatever. But I got C&T Fire or something, I think is the company that I got a hold of.
Okay. Anyway, Brandon and Dawn coming to look at ours are here June 1 to 5. So,
Yeah.
Well, they're just inspectors, not installing it.
no, these are, yeah, installed.
Installing, right?
Just FYI.
Okay. Okay, and moving on to the cemetery.
Your citizens to cemetery. Sorry, the progression.
I remember a hospital that would, at the bottom of the foot of the hospital was a cemetery. How would you like to have that feeling? Looking at your hospital window, there's a cemetery. The cemetery here, there's not much change. This.
So we still have a cemetery manager? Is that what
Well, we have Paul who works out there, and right now it's kind of being, looks like it's going to be managed back again through the clerk's office. So
I'm sure the clerk's office is joyed with that.
Stan was managing it, and unfortunately his health changed, so he did not want to manage it anymore. He's still helping out. I know, but I think he was going to be more hands-on.
Well, the saying goes, you can tell what is the value of the community by how they treat their dead, and what their cemetery looks like. So we've done a good job over time in improving, just mowing the thing down and getting those markers up. And
Sometimes I wish the rest of the town looked as good as the cemetery does.
right? So I think
But
the
Santa
cemetery.
Paul's done a good job.
Okay, and the last, before we start heading over to the Public Works, is the Visitor Center. That's on page 30, a little further back out. The goal this year is to fix the outside lights and to paint or stain. Okay, now we're going to go back to Public Works, Building Maintenance, which is page 13. Now we have supervisor, laborer, custodian. We are out getting prices right now of getting rid of the custodial position and outsourcing to a local company in the city to maintain the building. To maintain the library, city hall, and
Court office.
court office. Um, We've gotten our price back on City Hall, and we're waiting for the library and the port office.
That's just for the janitorial services, you say?
Yeah, that person who was doing it and wasn't doing it, is no longer with us, so we decided to take the opportunity to, we would continue to supply the supplies. I mean, they'd come here and the toilet paper would be here, all the paper products, all the cleaning products, and the vacuums. So their person would only have to come in and they would have to be bonded.
And what's the thought behind making sure all their equipment is here for them?
Because what happens if if they're here, like for this building, they may only be here 3 days a week. And if we have something, something happens in between, we would at least have a vacuum here. And if cleaning supplies, if someone got sick in a bathroom, they'll be doing, this is probably our least used public building other, than the museum and library, because that's open 6 days a week. And they would be doing a 5-day-a-week cleaning service there. Right now, Dave usually handles that, so I want to free Dave up from that responsibility to do other things.
Just curious, because typically you have buying power when you purchase more than less, so just curious if that was, why that was.
Well, we're still buying power for the entire city for the bathrooms. I mean, but they also have markup too. And that's what we were looking at. I was looking at the markup to be able to supply those supplies. And this contract, once it's brought to you, can always evolve. I mean, it's one of these things we're going in, we're walking around. Dave was up there last week when we were up at the museum. They were supposed to be up there a week earlier, but I got sick that day and I wasn't able to be up there. And then our staff is going to concentrate on areas where they can't get to, which is higher up, where the light fixtures are up in the library. As you well know, they're way up there. I want our guys to concentrate and make sure that dust and everything else isn't up there as much as possible.
The things that you need, like specialty equipment to get at.
Yeah.
So there was a bidding process that this has gone through and all that, or?
We're going to be meeting with all the folks, because it's not simply, you got to walk them around and show them what you want.
But we're supplying all the supplies, cleaning supplies, the paper towel.
Right, I got that part, but I was just curious, like how
Basically, it's just.
how
gonna
the
be
services
labor.
are being procured. Like I haven't seen anything in the paper saying, hey, we're
We're-
looking for somebody to clean our building. So that's why I was just asking, like, how's that part working?
We're going to be calling each one in to give us a price.
Who's each one?
I know, that's why I was like,
Well,
is there
we're
a list?
using the one, we have Thunder Tinkerer and the ones who worked at the
John Haggard.
John, that group. Last year they gave us a price, which when we heard it, we backed away. So, and they'll be able
So this has
to.
been pursued before, and they're just trying again, see if you can get something more reasonable. Gotcha.
Okay, trying to think if there's anything that stands out. Also, I just want to let you know, because it says mentions here 6 vehicles to maintain. There are 28 vehicles that we have what I would call classified car truck in our fleet. If we put them in present day value, that would be anywhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million dollars based on their age. It's probably down below $500,000 because we've got some very, very old equipment on the streets. So as we talk about creating a way to rotate the fleet, be able to sell it when it still has some value so that money can roll back in, and using a portion of that money that was allocated. So essentially we would create a bank of vehicles that departments would lease to the bank and help contribute to pay into the replacement of those vehicles in their fleet. But we have vehicles that are as old as 22 years old in the fleet right now. But we're not going to be ready for that yet this year, so. All right, if there's nothing else on building maintenance, Public Works building. You want to talk about the air compressor?
Yeah, we got an air compressor there that doesn't, it's wore out, it doesn't keep up enough air when we're working on something or doing a lot of tire work or something, cutting edge changes and stuff. It's having a hard time keeping up, and it's probably almost as old as the building. Yeah, so it's just time for a new one.
And you want to talk about the $6,000 heating modine?
Yeah, we want to start replacing all the modines because they're starting to leak and they're just old and they probably all gummed up inside, corroded. So I got a boiler coil. So we replaced one, was it last year? Yeah. And we got 5 more we need to replace.
This is replacing all 5 of them, or? is
Oh,
it
no, I just
one?
probably for 2 of them.
Okay, so 6,000 is for 2 of them.
Right.
Okay.
So we just want to start the year just replacing 1 or 2 and then going.
There's nothing else. Page 18, Adam, which is the landfill.
$46 for the other packet.
There's 1 employee there. Then there's, which is an equipment operator too.
We got some portable litter fence we want to get for the monofill. So it's on here. So we can move it.
Did you bring the picture? I forgot.
I don't have it. And it's just like we've got the landfill, we can pick it up and move it. So whichever way the wind's blowing, we can set it there and try and catch them up blowing out.
We're getting complaints about from Sitnasuck.
That's at the regular landfill.
We're getting complaints.
The trash out front of it, I was driving down that road the other day.
Well, I don't know if you're.
Stack cars around and try and catch some of it, but we need fencing up there. We'd like to put it all the way around the whole outside. That's lots of money.
I mean, this thing is big. It's
About 20 feet wide or
almost
so.
looks like a basket. I mean, the back of behind home plate.
Next up.
Yeah, backstop.
So who moves this? What is it, or what moves this?
A loader. You can pick it up with a loader or something. Just move it real quick. You don't even have to have forks. Just a bucket will hook onto it. You got, I think, 3 or 4 of them out at the landfill already. Bottom.
There's nothing else. We can move to page 21, road maintenance.
Going to 21, I'm glad you mentioned
Now, just so, this past winter, the city moved as of the end of April.
Yeah.
That doesn't include when we moved in May.
Yeah.
179,226 cubic yards. And the Stampede, Q Trucking, State DOT, and Bonanza moved an additional 75,000 cubic yards of that white substance.
That's not, the DOT didn't start keeping records till January, so there's 2 months there they didn't have records of what they hauled off Front Street. So, there's actually a little more than that.
Because I know this is going to come up as part of this portion of the meeting. Here's two there. All right, Joe, why don't you go through your budget on road
I
maintenance?
don't know.
It's on 21.
Yeah, yeah.
We're on page 49 still.
Well, yeah, okay.
They're good right there. My plugins right here. Right here, John.
I don't know that works.
So there's one right here if you need one.
Okay.
Here's this.
Oh, you got power strip?
I don't have to move.
Just so, you know, this includes 3 equipment operator twos. We also bring the harbor master in to work. We bring Dave in to work.
Harbor 2 into work.
Harbor
2, Chris.
We also bring in some seasonal help to assist us in driving dump trucks. Just so you know, that's pretty much the crew. I don't know if all the numbers are in from where we finished this winter. I know several came in quite large at the end. Nikki?
I had to turn off my connection to my city computer, so I can't tell you where it's at this moment.
Okay, well, that loses that opportunity. Though I know we well outspent that line item. This was probably similar to the winter before I got here, especially the last 3 storms in the last 2 weeks of the season.
We moved, the first part of it, we moved over 10,000 yards of snow off the port road itself.
So snow removal will be well over 90,000. And if my numbers that I was looking at, keeping track of, was more than 124,000, which was at the end of F19. Also, we're looking at more materials to put on our roads as they are sinking. Also, because NEC is supporting something out at the harbor, and I don't remember. Joy, what are they, NEC working with you?
It's on the Snake River development.
Yeah.
It's just, they are just contributing a cost share to the application for funding. We have not yet been awarded, so that's just a promise of a contribution.
Well, right now, that's holding up their contribution. So we're asking, they're supporting the Snake River project. We're going to be asking them to reconsider their $50,000 that they normally contribute for calcium chloride to control dust. So there's a lot more stone material which is adding as part of the increase. Now this gets into the, also it's reflected in here at one point, it's now been taken out, is the money to do a potential 5-year lease for heavy equipment. And I wanted to give you a list of the heavy equipment that you currently have. The 1982 dump plow is to be retired, which is number 6 on your list. Number 5, this is being, Joe?
We want to use that strictly just for a trash truck for Ucaway haul, and then the port uses it quite a bit in the summertime. The bed is, the back tail of it's kind of rotten. It's just dangerous to be hauling snow or gravel with because it pops open because it's tweaked and the metal's rotten. We have replaced both sides once already, and it's just, the whole inside of the bed's warped too. And we checked on the price of a bed here 2 years ago, and it was $65,000 just for the bed, and plus freight to get it here. And the truck is it's a '94, so '95, so it's just an old truck.
Now, on the 79 D7G dozer, actually, Jennifer, I was incorrect. Joe was looking at a used one, a 2015, with 4,900 hours on it.
Yeah, I think I got it here.
We typically, according to Joe, he went back, typically put about 400 to 450 hours a year on it. And but that's spread out over the years because
An average.
that's just an average. You know, sometimes we use them more than others. If you were using it on an individual hour, $275 to $300, you can see 200 to 400 hours makes anywhere between $60,000 to $120,000. Which, when you're looking at the cost of buying it, shipping it up here, even a used one, and buying a maintenance agreement, and the maintenance agreement would be the powertrain. So if something went wrong.
Yeah, and they're estimating a 3-year powertrain warranty would be about $22,000.
I know this is we just wanted you to have that information. I believe that they were looking at $18,000 to use it if we were able to use it for a month, but that's still 200 hours. And if we went over that 200 hours, it would still be, we still have to pay for those extra hours.
This is the dozer that's used out at the Montefiore? That uses that, that gets used out?
No, it's the one at the snow dump is the one we're using. At the Montefiore dozer, it hasn't run in 2 years, and we haven't used it.
Okay,
we
so
brought our D7 out there last year.
you changed the dozer from the Montefiore to the dump last year?
No, the snow dump. We took the D7 that we used for pushing snow at the snow dump. We brought it to the Montefiore for the summer and used it.
Okay,
The one we have there hasn't run in 2 years, and it's the 1979 D7G dozer.
okay, well, that's the one he has that you have down to be replaced.
Yeah,
So is
yeah.
that something different?
No, that's the one we want to replace.
And that's the one that works at the Montefiore?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I want to do is
Doesn't work.
put a bigger dozer at the snow dump,
Yeah.
push more snow, then take that one that we're using there and bring it to the Montefiore to do our Montefiore stuff. Then in the wintertime, we can take that one from the Montefiore and bring it to Iceview. So we don't have to keep walking the dozer back and forth to Iceview to push snow out there.
For what, the 2 or 3 days that we get that much snow?
We get a lot of snow out there.
Well, I get that, but.
And we've had our dozer out there
we don't
several
have 'em,
times.
like a few
this
days
winter.
out of the year, so that's why I'm trying to figure out, like, you wanna spend $500,000 on equipment, and it sounds like for the time that it's being used, that it would be more beneficial to the city to rent the equipment for the time that it's needed, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, and you're looking at 200 hours for pushing snow for a month, and we'll put more than that in 3 weeks. Because when we're working a dozer, we're working 10, 12, 13 hours a shift pushing snow.
But we're talking
The monofil?
having 2 dozers, right?
Yeah, and what I'm saying is-
One stays at the,
Monofil during the summertime,
right,
and then in the wintertime, we can bring it to Iceview instead of walking when we have the snow dump out to Iceview and back, pushing snow.
okay.
And we have lots of snow dumps out there we gotta maintain, and was it 2 winters ago, we couldn't even get out on the tundra with our loader to push the snow up far enough, so we had to keep a dozer out there,
Right.
and we'd haul our landfill one in the wintertime to do the south wall,
Yeah,
and then we'd haul it around to do other places, but we just had too much snow last year, we had both of them at the snow dump.
Because one of the dozers also goes to the port for when they need.
Yes, the south wall.
okay.
Often is that?
It just depends on how much snow we get, I mean,
No, I'm talking about the summer.
oh. We don't bring dozer to the port in the summertime unless they need one over there on Thornbush.
I mean, what the council is trying to understand, you know, last winter, when we had all the snow being brought in by outside parties,
And
our
they're,
dozer couldn't push it.
no, we couldn't keep up with it, and we had, at times, we had 2 dozers in there, our little one and the 7, and we could not keep up with it.
And we had to contract out to move snow that other people were bringing their snow in. They were charging us to move their snow again.
Right.
I mean, this is the problem that you have with that. You turn around and charge people to bring snow in, then you can offset your operations, or as I think Adam, you mentioned, or somebody mentioned, about leasing it out to a third party. You know, that's the problem. I mean, and as Joe is, you know, you're running your dozers all over the place to go from Iceview to, what's the name of that street? Joe,
We go Fireweed and Iris.
Fireweed and Iris, out there.
Have you talked to anybody about the leasing thing? Even looked into prices
We
or?
did look, I did, you know, we did look at the pricing. We didn't go in and give them specific examples, but, you know, for instance, the contractor who was managing the hospital this year brought all the snow onto our dump. That, they had not been doing that.
I think that's a different question than what you're asking.
Well,
I'm just wondering if you reached out to them and
well,
whoever has a dozer that can do it.
Well, we looked at the documentation that you brought in, and we also went and looked at our contracts that we have with the providers. And, you know, the thing is that we need to do a better job in tracking. We do not keep, and we're working on, I know it sounds awful, we're working on finding a log book that we know where each piece of equipment is during the year and where it should be charged to. Right now, if the port uses it, you know, the port is using it. And we did talk with the port. If they knew how much they were using it, they would be willing to help contribute. But we can't tell them that. We don't have those hours logged in because we haven't been doing that for a while.
So this list looks kind of long, and I wonder about just reorganizing it a little to say, I mean, I know the purpose of this was to say how old some of these were, but, you know, do we have 7 dump trucks, 3 loaders, 3 snow blowers, and then I'm assuming that snow blower Schmidt is just a backup and probably doesn't work, I mean, that the number 25 and 26 are the ones that you're using, and those then go on number 14 and 15 as attachments type of thing?
No, they go on, number 22, the Volvo L-150 loader. And the loader number, which one is it? The F loader, number 15, that's the landfill loader. That's when it's out the landfill year round.
Okay, the F, and so there are two loaders then on the streets.
Yes, one is half the time or more is hooked to a snow blower. So we only have one loader running around hitting all these other spots.
But do you have enough people to even hire? I mean, do you have enough operators to fill all these when it's snowing like that? Everything that you have, I mean?
We have enough operators right now for the loaders, but if we use one of our operators to drive a truck in the winter. But if we had a piece of equipment to put them in, we'd put them in it.
Did I hear you say something about not using this 250 was going away from the budget? Or what did
No,
you say?
no, it's been put in another line item. The 250 is there, and that should be the maximum that we would have to lease a year for the next 5 years.
What do you say it's put in another line item? What do you
Nikki?
It's in the capital.
I moved
mean? Oh,
it.
you moved it from operations to capital. Okay.
I moved it, yeah.
Okay.
So I just did some math, and if we rented this dozer that was on a piece of paper for $18,000, we could rent it for the next 13 and a half years.
But that's just for 40 hours or 80 hours. I mean,
200
we put
now.
more
But
than
we
that.
don't have snow 12 months out of the year.
We figured almost 450 hours.
And those two
Per
snow
year.
years have been unusual snow years, and so I'm just trying to figure out how we're benefiting our city. And we're not in the equipment business either, and so all the maintenance and operations and all that kind of stuff that we have to do to keep these pieces of equipment in our fleet, when you don't have, I mean, when you rent something, it comes with a maintenance contract, if I'm not mistaken. They fix whatever gets broken, and then it just keeps moving, so it's not our cost anymore. And I don't forget how much we spent last year on fixing this loader that needed to be rehauled, and it lasted what, 2 weeks?
No, we had it fixed in 19 and it lasted till just,
No. There was something that we had rebuilt last year,
no, in 2019. We had an engine put in it and a transmission rebuilt.
and then something went
Then
haywire, like
this-
right away.
This year, the transmission gave out on it. There was a gear in there and a bolt broke.
So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like we're spending a lot of money on these big pieces of equipment that the city shouldn't be in the business of getting into anyway, especially since there's some I have at least two. I think there was a couple more that we hadn't seen yet. At least two different contractors that have these things in town, and we can rent them for 13 years versus this 5-year lease agreement.
But I don't think you can get the equipment when you want it. Because they also have contracts.
These guys, these contractors say they're sitting there available for rental.
But what if they're out
Run
cleaning their other contracts that they have and we need that loader at 4 o'clock?
Well, he's not talking about a loader. He's talking about a couple of dozers.
I'm talking about any equipment.
No, that's the understanding is that the city would, and my understanding is that the contractors lease out the equipment. The equipment is available to wherever it's
With the
leased.
driver, not the equipment.
No,
No.
not a wet piece, not wet with a driver. You could get that, but they also offer.
I thought they weren't giving us the drive.
There was one,
Stampede wasn't, it was wet.
yeah, Stampede.
Not all these guys have all the equipment either. I
Yeah,
mean,
but so what Adam's asking and what we're asking, what I'm asking, what I'm interested in is if we have a choice, what's our choices? We're not really getting that information. We've asked for, we do have like the per hour charge, and you can figure that out, which Jennifer is just trying to do. But do we have other options such as, is there equipment in town that we could lease out on a seasonal basis or something and only pay for it when it's being used? And our contracts that's not what we let out for.
What we let out for is equipment services agreement, to us, it's very clear, all work to establish hourly service rates of various equipment with operator on as required basis for the city of Nome. Now, if you're talking about, okay, we want to put out a contract that we want to know that we're going to be able to have for this period of time, you know, when is it going to be? Is it going to be the first snow in November when we got hit this past year in Thanksgiving time? And it was pretty much a slow winter until we got hit the last 2 weeks. You know, I don't know how you put it together a contract. I mean, we would be almost
That's
better.
what we want you to do.
Right, that's what we're asking you to do. We're asking you, okay, wait. We're not asking you to put out a bid for a contract. We're asking you to do some research. Reach out to the contractors in town. Say, this is what we're looking at. This is what we might need. Do you guys have these equipment? Do you guys have this equipment
We're talking
available?
about
And
the
how
snow
much would it
dump
cost?
only?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, that's the big one. They want another
We
dozer.
want a big dozer for that snow dump is what
And if
I'm
we,
hearing.
we've had, I know Stampede said we would be interested in maybe leasing it out from November 1 to May 1 or something like that.
And then what are they gonna do? They're gonna charge the city for using their own snow dump?
They gotta figure it out. That's what, yeah.
We
need
haven't
to
had
figure
that
out.
conversation, so
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, if, you know, how much would you charge us to run the snow dump?
I don't know if you could do that because there was an agreement to build it. The state put up the money for them to use it and the city to use it. So they're gonna be charging the state too and
Well, I did see Shane, and because I thought he had called me about it, so I clearly understand what you want out. So we'll have an answer for you.
Okay.
But we still want to. We still need to purchase a dump truck.
How many dump trucks are in town?
well, last winter we had a contractor. They'd work for the state and then they come to us. Then we had another contractor that was with us. Then all of a sudden their trucks are gone. We gotta go haul our stuff over here. I mean,
you know, guys, we're and I'm going to follow up on Adam, but we get criticism when we don't have the equipment. You know, I'd almost like to outsource the whole thing, and then when someone has a problem, like certain officials or PK, then he can go yell at Stampede or anything else. But remember, we're not just doing snow. We're also now doing the grading. We're moving stuff around. I mean, you know, we need to have equipment that is available for us and that we know it's going to be there. Now, this is from a policy standpoint, what services do you want the city providing? I mean, do you want us providing, you know, snow plowing services and making sure the roads are kept open? You know, when I went back and looked at what Randy Romanowski wrote in 2001, it's the same thing we're doing now, but you would think that somehow we weren't doing the same thing. It's the same plan. Same exact plan.
Well, that's what,
Being implemented differently.
that's what we don't, I guess, a lot of people in town, including some of our city council members, don't understand is that we provided this service for decades. And what somehow we did it with less equipment.
well, town was smaller then too. Now it's grown and you're going further and further out.
How's it grown?
So
You got Anvil Mound, you got Lester Bench, and there's other Fiery Nice. We didn't have that 15 years ago or so. I mean, it's just growing. And if we're accepting roads, we got to maintain them.
I mean, there's more history than I understand.
And right now too, you got more loaders in town. You got more skid steers. You got more plow trucks that are pushing snow all out in the right of way. And on people's property, they're saying, "Oh, the city did that." No, the city didn't do that. It was a plow truck that did that. And we got blamed. I don't know how many times this winter for pushing snow on somebody's property when it wasn't us.
Well, I mean, part of the question too is, are we actually utilizing, or how would we utilize these pieces? You're talking about logging it in the future, but somebody has a good idea now, just generally how these things are being used. And again, I think that the age thing, tells us one thing, but just, what is the piece of equipment?
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure how many trucks are on here. The Kenworth T800 is a truck.
It's a dump truck.
And so if we know that we have we got 2 water trucks?
Yeah, we got one that we put calcium in, the other one's for potable water.
Freightliner is the calcium.
Where's the site dump?
Did that thing even dump a load of snow this winter?
Not this summer, or this winter.
There's your dump truck right there, because that'll work next summer or next fall. Is it the
But
truck?
when we were using that, it's a side dump, you gotta hook
No, I
up.
mean, is it the truck that's down?
Yeah, the truck's down.
This 1982 dump truck is down?
No, that's, we got that sitting out of the landfill in the impound yard fence. And that's too dangerous to drive on the street because it's during box. It's an old state.
This is the dump truck though?
Yeah.
And it's dangerous to drive because there's a steering box wrong?
Steering problems, yeah, and the wiring, it's just construction wore out. And that was another state buy. City bought it off the state of
So is this the
Alaska.
dump truck that you're trying to replace or this is
The
something
auto
different?
car. The number 5.
The auto car dump truck. So this is the one that just needs a bed replacement?
Yeah.
So why are we replacing the entire truck instead of just the bed?
Because of the age of it, and if you get a transmission that goes out on it, that's another $30,000, and it's just.
How many dump trucks does the city need? We have one, 2, 3 other ones besides the 2 that you just told me that can't really work
And
anymore.
we use all the dump trucks in wintertime hauling snow, and we use their contractors
Yeah,
too.
a 9-month thing.
The international
or a
dump
3-month
truck
thing that we
is, got the big sander in it. So
Which one
you
does?
lost-
International.
International, you've lost that one because that's your sander.
And why do we lose it?
Because
It's got
it's
a
your
sander in the
sander
bed.
during the winter time.
In the wintertime, it's only a sander truck.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if we had that on here, we wouldn't have a lot of this question.
Yeah.
I know, I don't know what
Like-
these things are for,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It looks like we have a lot of dump
So-
trucks and not a
so
whole
let's
lot
just
of.
go-
Basically,
List.
right now you got 3 dump trucks, basically.
There's another dump truck. I
So
just
the
found.
side dump didn't work this summer, this winter. We're hoping it works next winter. That's my assumption.
Is it gonna work next winter?
Yeah, I mean, is that
I mean, what's-
planned
It's
to
gonna work,
be?
but still, even last year we had all our dump trucks running, except the International and the side dump and the contractors. I mean,
But the side dump, is it a major, I mean,
it hauls the most snow.
but I mean, is it operable? It's not gonna work for you.
Yeah, it is.
But you're only allowed 3 or 4 roads.
No, we can use it on a bunch of roads, but you gotta have
You
a
can't do it
certain.
down Third, you can't.
Well, I hope we could use it down some roads because we bought it just like not that long ago, so you
Yeah.
could use it to do
Yeah.
this very thing, and it's not being used, so.
Yeah, last year, towards the end of the year, we broke a cylinder on the side dump, so we replaced that, and then we had problems after that with the tractor, so.
So what's number 10?
Number 10, that's the 2008 Freightliner dump truck.
That's my truck.
Oh, that one's.
That's a good running truck.
I didn't get to ride it that much this year. It skid steer most of the year.
Yeah, so number 11 goes with number 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm assuming putting the sander in and out of that dump truck's probably not.
Yeah, because you gotta take the sideboards off and the tailgate off, and then.
I figured.
So did you not have enough contractor dump trucks last year or this last snow year? Let me rephrase that, to get your streets cleaned, or is that why you're asking for another dump truck? And does this dump
No,
truck
no.
only used in the winter time or does it get
No,
used all year long?
You're wrong. But like I said, the auto car, right now, the bed is so rotten on it, it's just dangerous to haul gravel in it or snow if you got a car behind you and the tailgate opens up and.
So that's this number 5 that's got the bad bed.
Right. Right.
And you say you don't want to replace the bed of it because it's $65,000. How much is the whole?
That's that and the freight, and so I don't know what the freight would be to get it up here.
Another 20.
Yeah, so, and then plus the age of the truck, if you got, like I said, you had to,
A 94, as far as dump trucks are concerned, doesn't appear to be that big of an age.
it's got a lot of hours on it, and it's got an automatic transmission. It's never been rebuilt in it, and so, I mean, I'm just afraid that if that goes, that's another $20,000-$30,000 for a transmission.
You can get a new
Yeah.
truck
And you
for
get your warranty and
95 to over
You have, how
120.
many operators? It says 3 operators.
yeah, but we have on-call truck drivers in the wintertime that come in and drive truck. And this year we didn't have any on-call operators. When we had last year, they moved away.
Okay, so there's 3 operators, but that's not including Chris that comes over.
Chris comes over,
Doesn't include Lucas.
Dave, I do a lot of it, and then we have on-call truck drivers.
The Santa Paul. Who else?
Harley. And we used to
And
have
sometimes Aaron comes in from the landfill to drive.
Okay, so you just named off 7 people.
Yeah, but you gotta have a guy in a grader, and you gotta,
Right, that's what I'm saying. We're all these 7 people working. Obviously, they're not all sitting in a dump truck, so like,
No, yeah, they're not. Because you got 2 guy or 1 guy in a loader up north. He goes through fire weed and iris and opens that up just to make a fire lane when it's storming out or rapid storm. Then he goes to ICU, makes a path through there. Then he goes up to Anvil Mountain and he hits all 3 or 4 roads we have up there. And he goes up to the Lester Branch over behind the DOT and he hits that, opens that up, then back around and do it all over again if it's storming out. If not, we're gonna start cleaning.
Well, in order to operate and do the things we do on a year-round basis, we need some fleet of equipment. But I guess what we're trying to figure out, I think the question is, what does that basic fleet look like? And then, what are the, things beyond the bare bones that we might be able to rent? What are those things, and how much are we really utilizing?
1, 2, if you think about it, when we rent from our local businesses, that money stays locally in our community. When we go buy all this fancy stuff, it doesn't stay in our community. It goes straight out the door. It doesn't come back to Nome. It doesn't recirculate here with jobs and paying benefits for anybody. It doesn't, put any tax money into our tax coffers or anything. It just goes straight out the door. $250,000 gone that we don't get any benefit from. If we rent from these guys, though, that money stays in here and circles around in here.
And we did rent from these gentlemen, these companies, and they also had, somebody has the state contract, another one has the hospital and the other native corporations' properties.
But we're just talking about the equipment itself,
Yeah, not contract.
not contracting. I'm not talking about contracting anything. You guys have plenty of bodies, it sounds like, to operate these pieces of equipment. So why not put those bodies into this stuff so that these guys can actually help our economy and keep our money flowing through here instead of spending $250,000 in Tennessee or Seattle or wherever this equipment's coming from? That's the difference.
And then they can maintain.
And then exactly, the maintenance is not on us, it's on somebody else.
And that's why what I'm trying to hear through this is, what do you want us to do as an organization? Okay, this is what we want you to do. Then we know it, then we can equip to it. But I know last year when there was a problem out at the airport and a contractor couldn't get there, we got a call from the airport, would we go out and help them? And we sent the person out there to help them because the airport asked us. They couldn't get their contractor out there at that point as a good neighbor. And then I got yelled at by the contractor because we came and helped a fellow government agency. And, if we just want to maintain this limited area, fine. We're running this big snow dump, which you didn't have there at one time. This is something new. This is a big snow dump. And we're handling everybody's snow there. And if we don't have the equipment, we have to go out and lease it. Now, I can turn around and argue that, okay, if we go out and say we need 400 hours worth of usage, which is what Joe has estimated, at $300 an hour, that's $120,000 a year in leasing that one piece of equipment, which we could recover our cost in 5 years. Now, it may
You're
not
not gonna be leasing it the entire year for all that time, so how are you getting these
but
numbers?
it's 400, if you look at, you break down their hours.
Okay, they're giving you monthly rates, not,
Monthly rate.
not,
and that's-
not
but
hours.
No, that's hours. It's 200 hours.
Okay, maybe I'm misreading these. They say monthly rates on these, so am I
Yeah,
misreading?
but they
these?
assume a number of hours. If you exceed that number of hours, you're paying.
And normally we do that. I mean, we can put 80 hours on it in a week. So, I mean, or actually not 80.
I was gonna say, how you manage that,
Yeah,
but
no, at least 70 hours, because if you're working 12, 14 hours a day pushing snow, I mean,
And we are, and that there are days that we push 10 to 12 hours a day pushing snow for days in a row. And we were doing that in the last 2 weeks.
But that's not typically a norm. It's not like that's gonna be our always. So, I mean, if we go over the 200 hours that one time, like, I still don't see how we're gonna be on the losing end of that.
Well, I think what Councilmember Martin was saying, let's go back and talk to Stampede. And I don't have a problem with that. We'll go back and talk with Stampede and outline exactly what we think we're gonna need and what will they charge us.
Well, I think the other question that we have is, do you have a piece of equipment that you can park on our lot, and if we need it, we'll use it, and what will you charge us to
Right.
park it on our lot?
That's another way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
But I will also say, the previous year, the guy delivered a vehicle, it did not work, charged us for it, and we were arguing back and forth because when they delivered it, it worked, but when we went to use it, it didn't. And, and I agree fully about trying to push as much money of the city back into local businesses. That's why we were having that discussion previously on the custodial services. Where can we outsource and where should we keep it in-house? Mr. Mayor, I don't know we've got people coming in for another meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we're up against our timeline, and I was just looking at the budget calendar here. We're, according to this, next week having the first reading of the budgets. And I don't know, are we there yet? I'm thinking we're maybe not. So, the second reading was June 14th. I mean, we have to have it done by the end of June, but if we have to scoot it out a week, because we've already determined what we're going to give to the school district. We've covered that one.
Yeah. Still need to set the mill rate.
I had one question for Nikki while we're still on the budget.
Go ahead.
Did she figure in the cost of fuel oil going up?
Yes.
Yes, in the projections?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically what now we did follow up on the question of the sales tax, and we will not be able to use any of the ARPA money to offset the reduction in sales tax.
And we're not intending to do that.
Okay, explain to me.
That was never the motivation of reducing the sales tax.
Okay, we're at an economic stimulus.
What?
An economic stimulus by reducing it from 7 to 5.
No, we're having the city utilize our existing tax situation without raising it to 7%.
Okay, but my point is we can't use any of that ARPA money to offset that reduction.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
it
I
was
think we
understood.
all agree with that. Yeah, I
Okay,
understand.
it was understood because I did not want, you know,
Right.
it to pass and all of a sudden,
Well, we got that money, we got that pot of money to use, right?
So whatever the equivalent is of that sales tax break, let's just say it's $200,000.
it'll probably be in the 300,000+.
1 mil.
I guess the way that we I guess I'm wondering if not being able to offset it with this other money means anything in the existing budget can't be covered at all. Like, you know, under the previous thing, we could offset some police wages. We could do that. We could offset nothing that's in our budget, only something we add to it.
Well, if you wanted to give premium pay, if we were dealing, like some businesses, as you may recall, gave premium pay last year. We did not. That's if you wanted to do that. Amazingly, the ventilation system of City Hall may be able to be covered with this money. We just found out about that. So, as you remember, you had a surplus last year, which could be used as a carry forward. Well, no, not this year. We're in another budget year. So, but if you have a surplus this year, you use that as a carry forward to offset, you know, the loss in revenue. And we're still trying to figure out, you know, you're collecting more sales tax, sales tax. You're collecting more property taxes because properties have increased in value. Nikki and I were discussing that earlier today. How do you handle that in consideration? But the use of the ALPA money is much more limited than the CARES money, wherever.
Okay, we need to move on to the next. And basically, folks, the item on the agenda tonight on the Moonlight Springs permit, we're not intending to address that tonight. We'll roll over to the next regular meeting. And that's because the Pomeranke's both are out of town due to a death in the family. And we feel that we owe them the opportunity to be present during the deliberations and to address any issues that come up. So we're not going to handle it tonight. And rather than call the meeting to order, get out of here. So the meeting is canceled. We don't have a quorum.
Adam had to leave unexpectedly because something happened.
Yeah. Right on. Thank you, everybody.
But when will our next meeting be?
Well,
Yeah, I have to look at my phone now because I don't remember anything. I have to write it down.
Just
It's the 25th. We'll be at the meeting on the 25th.
In the regular, not a special?
Correct. It won't be a special meeting, it'll just be part of the regular meeting on that.
well, I think we need to go
It's on a Tuesday this year, yeah. Or this time because we thought, John thought something else was happening and so he moved it to Tuesday without realizing that something wasn't happening.
Can we move it back to Monday?
What's that?
It's already been
It's
noticed.
already been noticed, they can't, we already had that
In
discussion.
the